Hey everybody, it's Elvin, Freytes, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. Hopefully you know by now that we have started our subscription-based model where we have original content, bonus content, get invites to special events. So right now it's $2.99 a month, and as of January 1st, 2025, it's going to go up to $19.99 a month. So go to edupexperience.com, edupexperience.com, look for subscribe now to lock in that lifetime EdUp Experience founders rate. $2.99 a month, edupexperience.com. Look for subscribe.
Now listen up.
Because Insights EDU 2025 is coming, and this is the conference you don't want to miss. Meet us February 12th through 14th in New Orleans for one of our favorite higher education marketing and enrollment management events of the year. Imagine 3 days packed with actionable insights and the latest innovations in higher ed. We're talking top industry experts, real-world case studies, and hands-on workshops designed to help you grow your programs, boost engagement, and elevate your student experience. This is your chance to hear the latest higher ed trends from speakers at Google, Reddit, Meta, MIQ Digital, and schools across the country. Mark your calendars, get your team, and get ready to welcome the era of the modern learner at Insights EDU 2025. Register now at insightsedu.com and secure your spot. We'll see you there. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is the second time that I've recorded that intro for this episode. The first time didn't work out very well because my sound effects all messed up. But that's just part and parcel for how we've gotten here on the episode 1000 that we will release on this podcast is this very episode. Joining me is the co-founder of the EdUp Experience podcast. He's not often seen, but always behind the scenes, ladies and gentlemen. He's Elvin Freytes. Elvin Freytes, welcome back to the front end of the EdUp Experience podcast. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, Joe. And 1,000 episodes. It's
I can't believe it, man.
Unbelievable, man. Really. And what? Let's see, less than 5 years. We're releasing this in December. It'll be January 25, January 22nd, right? I think that's the exact
January 25th.
Date.
Good memory. January 25th, 2025, episode 1 of the EdUp Experience. January 25th, 2020, episode number 1 of the EdUp Experience podcast is released. Here we are, literally almost, we're talking about 4 years, 11.5 months later. Yeah, almost 5 complete years later, episode 1000. And I would say that this entire time, we haven't been giving it 99%, Elvin. We've been giving it
100%.
Don't you think?
No doubt. And you know what? I still laugh because the first episode is just me and you, just like now. And it's the lowest ranking episode of the 1,000.
Of all time. It's the lowest ranking episode of all time is episode 1. Where you and I riff. So we thought, we're going to go back to basics. We're going to have the second lowest rated episode of all time, episode 1000. Maybe not. Maybe there's going to be a few more people that listen this time. But I will tell you, I remember episode number 1 when we recorded, I was like, I told my wife, I'm like, can you listen to this? Can you get your family to listen to this? We want to get over 10 listens. And now we've had over 400,000 downloads. Did you really... if you think back to where we started, right? Because we're scrapping. Like, just start a podcast because nobody else is really doing a good one. And there's some podcasts, but there aren't any that are that good. To 400,000, man. Can you believe it?
No, I can't. And you know what's funny? I think about that too, man. I remember that we just started. We said, you know what? Let's just go. And it was so bad that I was in my closet with my laptop. And I think you were in your car, dude. You phoned it in. Right? You were in like a lunch break or something. And we said, let's just go. Let's just try it and see what happens. And now, over 400,000 organic downloads, right? Because
what do you mean by that? What is the difference when you say organic and inorganic?
Here's the secret. Here's the secret, right? Once you start a podcast, you gain some traction. I am, I'm sure you are too, Joe, and I'm sure most podcasters are. You get hit up all the time. Hey, I can get you more downloads. I can get you more Apple reviews. I can get you this. I can get you that.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, right? Yeah, I'm a top podcast promoter. I'll get you tens of thousands of downloads.
Yep. Just give me $350. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of the rest. Or organic, or all real people. And every single time we've turned them down. And then people do that though. That's okay if that's their thing. That's okay. But we have focused on slow, steady growth. With partnerships that have been amazing. And so it's been over 400,000, organic downloads. So that's what I mean by organic. Not a single paid ad, by the way, not a single paid ad. All organic, social, email. That is it. Everything free, 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 totally organic. So it's been like mind blowing.
And I think that's an important point because we've talked about it. Maybe we should run some ads. We should increase the number of people that listen. And if you actually look, we have some really loyal listeners, and these are people that are listening to multiple episodes of us. So maybe we don't have millions of downloads, but the people that do listen, these are big time consumers and consumption of higher education content. They're listening, they're learning, they're gaining insights from the incredible leaders that we've been able to interview, and they stay with us. They stayed with us for years. We have people that have stayed with us for years, this entire ride, and I mean, it's really incredible the loyalty of our listener base.
Yeah, and what I love too is that one of the things that we focused on early is that we wanted to do, well, there were so many things we wanted to do, but I remember we said, let's focus on guests. We just want to get as many people on as possible. So frequency was a big thing for us, right? And get as many people on. And then, downloads and people listening, engaging, that was like the cherry on top, right? But we wanted to have like really fun conversations. And it was, January 2020, I was right before the pandemic hit. We had no idea, and it was a horrible thing that happened, but in a way, it was kind of a blessing because people were home and then we were reaching out and people were like, yes, I want to come on. Yes, I want to come on. And we had so many people that wanted to come on the podcast. And then those loyal listeners that were there from day one, that base has actually grown because we do have over 1,000 Spotify followers, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And do you know what the best part is, Joe? That number continues to grow. It's very slow and incremental, but it's taken us almost 5 years, but we got over 1,000, which I love that. That's awesome. And then Apple, we have over 1,500 followers on Apple too. So maybe there's some, crisscross there. So maybe someone's an Apple listener and a Spotify listener, but maybe there's not. So you think about it, that's over 2,000 possibly unique people that are following our podcast on Apple or Spotify or both. So that to me is like, man, from like, trying to get, my wife never listened, by the way. I'm still trying to get her to listen
still
to
this day.
Still trying to get people to listen to 2,000, over 2,000. That's pretty incredible.
Well, and if you go back in time, and I can tell you one of the bits that we talk about, but we'll do something with it some days. We actually were able to chronicle COVID. If you go back to episode number 9, this is the craziness. I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night and I go, oh, wow, I forgot this episode with this person. And I get these moments of clarity where I go, episode 424, it was this person. But it was Ken Newman. At the time, with the Charles Koch Foundation and now with Core Education. But Ken was episode 9 of the EdUp Experience podcast. And it was the first time we talked about COVID as a headwind for higher education. And right before that, a couple episodes before that, I think was, or maybe after, I don't remember, was Scott Pulsifer, the president of Western Governors University, that really, when we were like, who do we get for guests? How much swag do we have in higher education? And somehow we got Scott, who... If you're a fledgling podcast and the president of a university that has over 100,000 students comes on, we're pretty excited about that. Yeah. And we then exploited him. And he if he ever listens to this, he'll know. We were like, hey, Scott Pulsifer's been on our podcast, other president, you want to come on? And it really did snowball for us and really now to getting to the point, which is we chronicle COVID. We've interviewed over now 325 college and university presidents from all across the world and multiple different types of institutions. And we've been able to just amass incredible content. And the President Series really, I think, is our shining series that we have. And people listen for the insights from today's trailblazing leaders. And there isn't anybody else that I know of, and you do a lot of the research, I know, that can come close to the level of content that we are generating right now.
No, I agree. And what's interesting is that it's not just in higher ed, because remember when we started, there were not that many higher ed podcasts. Now there are hundreds and hundreds of higher ed podcasts, right? They're everywhere right now.
I love when our guests that we've interviewed go on and start their own podcast after we interview them. And there have been many, we won't name you.
Yeah. That's true. And I love that. And, but the podcast in general, though, has just really taken off, and we learned this from the election recently, right? I
Yep.
mean, it was the podcast election, and so having this podcast and having all these presidents on, it's just actually been it's a game changer, you know. And the best part is that we're getting podcast guests who are presidents from all different types of institutions, religious institutions, tribal colleges, HBCUs, private, non-private, you name it. And then the people who don't get the stage that often, you know, on podcasts, you know, because other podcasts, I feel like they have the same people over and over and over again,
Yeah.
it's the same voices over and over again. But you know, we get different people on, which I love, you know. So it's so much fun for me to be scouring LinkedIn and to see, oh, this president's on. Oh, I would love to get this president, get their point of view, talk about their institution, talk about what they think is going on with higher education now and in the future. And so it that's like the best part that I love to do. Is just reach out, get them on, and hear their story.
You know what people don't know about you, Elvin, and they don't think about it, not to change the subject, but if you think about the number of episodes that we've put out, you are the most influential, maybe decorated podcast producer in the history of higher education. Think about it. You have produced, edited, pushed out over 1,000 episodes. There hasn't been anybody, you know, sometimes people record for me, but nobody does the production for you unless it's me.
Yes.
And you've done most of it.
Yeah.
So you've produced every episode we've ever done. And you've produced more episodes than anybody in the history of podcasting in higher ed. And people don't understand, like, what you listen to every episode, you pull the insights out from every episode, you push out the content. So, I mean, just you think about that body of work that you've been able to produce, and you've had fun doing it. I mean, like you said, at one point I was recording from my car, and you were producing the podcast in your bathroom in your apartment because your kids were sleeping in the other room. I mean, we came from really like kind of nothing, and then we created this podcast, right?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. That's very nice of you. I didn't even think about it like that. But we are prolific, though. We definitely are very prolific. And you know, again, the focus has always been on let's get as many guests on. And one of the things that we don't talk about often, though, that I love is our mission. You know, we want to inspire people to have a lifelong learning mindset, no matter the path they choose. And so that's something that I think to be honest with you, I think we were a little ahead of our time there, because now that path they choose, right? Where back in the day it was like you have to go to college. Don't get me wrong, we love college, man. We want people to go to college. I want my kids to go to college. You want your kids. We think college is the best pathway, right? But a lot of people can't do that pathway or don't want to do that pathway. Now we have so many different pathways to kind of get that, as long as they have that lifelong learning mindset. I think that's what's key. You know, and that's what we want. And I always tell you this, Joe, we're just getting started. Like the EdUp Experience right now is a podcast and specifically focused on higher education. And let's not forget the podcast network. You know, that's a whole nother. So we've helped all these other people start their podcast and maintain it and run it. So, you know, I've helped them. So yeah, it's been over 1,000 episodes that I have helped put out there in the world. You know, that's evergreen. It's going to be there. Who knows what's going to happen with AI and all the, you know, technology. It's going to use our voices and bring us back. Who knows in the future what's going to happen? Yeah. But to be able to put that out there in the world, it's very humbling, you know, and to do it with you, you know, because it's been fantastic. And I knew from day one, I was like, I got to work with this guy. This guy's different. He's cool. He's unique. He's got a good mind. I just want to be around him. I want to be a sponge. And I knew that putting you out there in the front, having me in the back, it was like a winning combination, man. So it's been fantastic.
Yeah, we always talk about like we're the band, right? You're the drummer, the guitar player, and the bassist, and I'm just the front man that has no instrument, right? And because so much of the hard work of producing a podcast is the production. Your recording is, you know, for the guest. And you're right, we did focus on that. We did and do focus on the guest. And we said, you know what, we're going to interview these amazing people. And if there are people out there that want to listen, they'll listen. But if not, we're still going to put our focus into telling the story of these amazing leaders. And, you know, again, you go back in time, you think about where we started, where we've come. To your point, we were interviewing any president, anybody we could find, if they could tell us anything about post-secondary learning. It wasn't just about degree or non-degree. It was, should we interview this person? Heck yeah, they got a good story to tell. Let's get them on. little did we know that we would get to a point where we had so many episodes recorded that we were releasing one per day. We were releasing an episode per day because we literally couldn't, when you have a cadence in podcasting, and people don't think about this, you're going to release one episode a week. That's only one recording. When you record 10, you're 10 weeks out if you're doing it once a week. If you record 20, you're 20 weeks out. Well, then somebody comes on and says, I heard your podcast. I loved it. I would really love to be a guest. And you go, I would love to interview you. Now you got number 21, but you want to make it number 4. So now you start putting things out of order. And backing things up. And so it's been hard to keep up with the demand. To your point, we are worldwide. 15 to 20% of our audience, depending on the given week, is outside the United States. We've literally physically recorded in Doha, Qatar. We've been outside of the United States recording. We've had multiple recordings within the U.S. In person. But a big part of our audience is outside of the U.S. And you just go, when you look at 188 countries have listened to this podcast, somebody in that country has listened. I didn't even know there were 188 countries. I have no idea. And you look at some of them and you're like, is that a country? But and when we go to a conference and when we've been in person and I walk by somebody and they go, hey, there's the podcast, dude. They didn't know my name. It's like, that's the guy that does that podcast, right? And then there's people that come up to us that know us. And they're like, I listen to you guys every week on my treadmill when I'm running. And it's like mind-blowing and humbling, right? And we've always said we have to stay humble no matter how big this podcast gets, no matter how many people we interview. The person that comes to us and says, I was listening the other day, and you think about the influence that you're having, it's really incredible.
Yeah, and speaking of influence, think about you. I'm pretty sure you are the only person on this planet that's interviewed over 300 college university presidents on the podcast. I am I could put a bet that you're the only person. So think about all that knowledge that you have speaking to all those people, and think about what we can do with all that. That's why I always tell people we're just getting started. Yeah, sure, we're going to be 5 years in, but seriously, all the things that we have gained, all the knowledge, everything, all the experiences, now we're going to start using that. And that's where, I'm very much looking forward to the next level. Now we started the subscription-based model where people can, subscribe and get the episodes early, ad-free. We're going to start putting more original content on there. There's going to be events coming up. I'm trying to scream from the top of my lungs and I'm telling everybody, now is the time to get involved in the subscription-based model for the EdUp Experience, because we are going to continue to innovate, and we're going to continue to bring forth all the heat. We're going to be prolific. It's just going to get better and bigger and better. And there's a lot of things we have in our heads that we got to get it out eventually. And remember, the crazy thing is that this is not our full-time jobs. We don't do this on full-time. This is our part-time job, and it's always been. We've never gone full-time in 5 years, almost 5 years. Never, always had a full-time job, and this has always been a side passion project. So, looking forward to the next stage of the.
Well, let me tell you, because a lot of people don't know this, and I'll tell the story in just a second how we met and how this all happened. But when Elvin and I, when we get together, when we meet in person, we go out to dinner. Like if we go to a conference, and we've done 2 conferences a year or so, 3 years, average, 2-3 years. We go out one night and we blow the roof off. We get the biggest, most expensive steak we can find. We have a couple of glasses of warm milk, right? Because neither of us like any cocktails. No, of course.
Adult beverages.
A few adult beverages. And we sit and we talk about how we can better serve higher education.
Yes.
And we ideate.
Yeah.
One of those ideas was EdUp editorials, where we say, there are people out there that want to write stuff, and we don't have a place to put it. And they have to go beg other trade publications and say, I want my article to be here. Is it worthy of this? And a lot of times those trade publications just say no, because there's not a negative angle to it. And we said, how do we tell the positive stories about higher ed? Well, we're going to start publishing on our site. And eventually it's going to get big enough that we're going to create a publishing hub. And we've already secured a URL at edupexperience.org so that we can publish articles, and that's how we serve the community, right? Like that's how we serve higher ed. And we sit and we talk about it for
Yeah.
Usually 2 hours, at least 2 or 3 times a year. And we use those ideas and we write them down and we start Xing them off a list. How do we create a GPT? How do we have a publishing website? How do we create a subscription service for a economical amount where a school can have access to 24/7 professional development for their leadership teams to and exclusive access to content that not everybody else has. And that's one of the things that blows my mind about podcasts is how people don't use it completely effectively. Right now, it's free content. You could get together your leadership team. You could listen to episode 302 and have everybody listen to it. And the next week come together in a meeting and talk about the ideas generated from that podcast. It's the most easiest thing. And then you talk about subscription service and the exclusive content. For a little tiny bit per month, you create professional development. I mean, but the industry hasn't come along all the way yet.
Yeah, and we haven't even tried events yet.
The EdUp Experience in-person conference event.
Yes, which is funny because I remember years ago there was a LinkedIn comment that said, "When is the conference coming?" And they want the conference. So yeah, there's hunger out there already, and we will oblige. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. We're doing this part-time, so it's going to be a little slower than normal. But I think that's, again, part of the evolution of the subscription-based model. We want everybody to subscribe, right? Be a paid subscriber, to have access to all of this information, all of this knowledge, all this professional development like you talked about, which is going to be a part of the podcast, yes, but we're also going to start to have in-person events. Maybe add some webinars, where maybe we add some more experiences as part of the EdUp experience, right? That are out of the norm, that will help people accelerate their professional development, right? And to be able to create community and have memberships and all that good stuff. So, I mean, we're just getting started. And right now, where the focus is higher education, but we can expand. We can expand to K to 12. We can expand to non-degree, non-certificate, all that stuff, all those different pathways. The education in general, right? From the beginning all the way to the end of life, the lifespan of education, So I think that's what EdUp is all about, right? EdUp, education up. That's where it came from. And so, and if you want to talk about the story about how we met and how it's all get going, I mean, that'd be cool.
Hey everybody, it's Elvin, Freytes, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. And hopefully you know by now that we have started our subscription-based model where we have original content, bonus content, get invites to special events. So right now it's $2.99 a month, and as of January 1st, 2025, it's going to go up to $19.99 a month. So go to edupexperience.com, edupexperience.com, look for subscribe now to lock in that lifetime EdUp Experience founders rate. $2.99 a month, edupexperience.com, look for subscribe.
Mark your calendars now for February 12th through 14th, because this is where we welcome the era of the modern learner and the most anticipated higher education marketing and enrollment management conference of the year. We're headed to New Orleans for Insights EDU 2025. This year's event is packed with speakers from companies like Google, Meta, Reddit, and MIQ Digital, and schools across the country. Ready to learn how AI is transforming the marketing landscape and how to adapt your programs to the preferences and demands of the modern learner? Then Insights EDU 2025 is where you need to be. Register now at insightsedu.com. Well, that's it is as simple as it sounds. You were, if I remember right, you were looking at a product to buy some product, and I was using that product, and I was the referral. So the person, her name is Dr. Jean Norris, connected us.
Shout out.
And she's since retired. Congratulations to Jean. She sold her company. But she's since retired, and she introduced us. We were talking. We hit it off. We had kids about the same age. And I was actually doing a podcast at the time.
Yeah.
So were you. Neither of which really had any traction.
Yep.
And it might have been like a week after we had that conversation, I just get a message on LinkedIn that says, hey, Joe, I'm thinking about starting a side business. Are you interested? And I wrote back, yes, I don't care what it is. I'm in. Right?
Yes.
And we actually have that excerpt in the book that we wrote from our podcasts, Commencement, the Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education, which has sold thousands of copies across the U.S. And I had that excerpt, still have it actually saved in my LinkedIn messages. And LinkedIn became part of our DNA through the EdUp Experience, how we grew the podcast, how we got to know each other. And that was, I guess, it was probably October of 2019, because I just finished my dissertation. I was like, this podcast I'm doing, I'm going to start my own. And then it wasn't until a year and almost a half later that we met in person. So we had a back of the napkin business partnership.
Yeah, I know. And that first time we met in Doha, Qatar, of all places. In Doha. And you will never let me live this down, but I wasn't that late. I think the first time we were supposed to be there, was it 9 o'clock in the morning Doha time? And
if I may tell the story just very briefly. Doha, Qatar. So now you're talking about, I came from Los Angeles. So I flew 16 hours straight to Doha the night before. So I go to sleep at like 7 o'clock at night. I go to bed. I wake up at 3 in the morning. So it's 8 a.m. I'm there. I set everything up, and we're in this giant convention center, which is next level. Yeah. It's got like a 3-story spider statue.
Yeah.
It's massive. Yeah. And people start coming over, and I'm podcasting. I'm getting ready. They're like starting to come over, bring me people. I'm like, where the hell is Elvin? He's not here. I know he showed up because he sent me a text from the airport saying I've arrived in Doha, and he's nowhere to be found. 8 o'clock goes by, 9 o'clock goes by, 10 o'clock goes by. I can't remember podcasting because I was so tired. Your time zones are way off. It's like noon. It's like noon. You come strolling in like, hey, man, I overslept. And I was like, dude, you're killing me. I was like sweating. I was sweating from all the podcasts. I hadn't eaten anything. I didn't know what time it was. It was,
oh, my God. I remember, too. I just remember, oh, my God, this guy's so tall.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought, man, you just showed up, and all of a sudden, it was lunchtime. So we had lunch. You missed the whole happy day. I mean, I think the moral of the story, though, is that when you find somebody that you connect with, you can do great things together. And, we since have formalized our business partnership. We have the EdUp Experience, LLC, which then we went and got a trademark. So
that's cool.
The Experience Podcast is a trademarked, registered, I should say, mark that we have now. We're legit. We're a legit business. And we've served higher ed partners. Like we've had partners like Google and Unmodel and Charles Koch Foundation and Rise Education and Leads Squared. Who else am I forgetting? So many good partners.
Don't forget MDT Marketing, who was like one of our first ones. Oh man, shout out
Mitch
to MDT Marketing. Yeah, Mitch, that was he believed in us. It was great. So he knew we had something. And I mean, that's a great story, man. By the way, first time, but just in my defense. I put on my alarm. Seriously, it did not go off. Something was wrong with my alarm. It didn't go off.
Your alarm didn't work in Qatar.
Because I know you were calling me and texting me. Nothing happened. Something happened on the phone. I'm not good with cell phone technology. Anyway, the producer not good with technology.
That's right.
But yeah, it's been a great partnership, man, and that's what has made this podcast successful, I think. And I define it as successful because when you have people who are engaged, right, and listening on a consistent basis, and they look forward to the episodes. I mean, one time I was at a conference, I was going to go to, on my way to one of the, what do they call them? One of those sessions. Yeah. And I was wearing my podcast EdUp Experience hat. And he goes, oh, dude, are you with the EdUp Experience podcast? I said, yeah. He said, oh, I love that podcast, man. That's awesome. I love the frequency. I listen to you guys every day, man. So many episodes. I was like, dude, that's awesome. That was like my first time experiencing that. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. I never thought that would happen. So I was really excited about that. So yeah, it touches a lot of people, and it's a powerful platform that we've created. And again, we're just getting started, Joe. It's just the beginning. So, very exciting, man.
Well, I do want to recognize the EdUp Experience Network contributors, creators that we have. Holly Owen specifically, who has been with us for 4 out of the 5 years. The EdUp EdTech podcast, now EdUp L&D.
L&D, yeah.
is really was our first spin-off podcast, and she has remained consistent this entire time. When we say that the EdUp Experience podcast has over 400,000 downloads, that's absolutely true. But if you bring in all of the network downloads, we're well over 500,000, 500,000 downloads to the network.
Yep.
Dr. Bill Pepicello, EdUp Insights, has been going for over 3 years, retired from the University of Phoenix as the president, and giving his insights. And we have so many others. We have EdUp Espanol. People don't know this, right? Like it's like we have EdUp in Spanish. We're launching EdUp Portuguese. We have EdUp in Chinese. We have what are the EdUps that we have? EdUp curriculum. What else?
EdUp Provost. EdUp Accreditation Insights. Yeah. So it's been phenomenal, with those spin-offs, and we also have our affiliates who have come on, which has been fantastic as well. So the podcast network has been great. And hopefully that, people have learned from them, from the guests and from the hosts. And that's the whole point, right? We want them to learn something new, something interesting, an insight that they can take away, maybe use in their professional life. I think that's amazing, right? If they could just take something away and then implement it in their professional life. I think we've had folks that have gotten jobs because of this podcast, right? They've gotten professional.
There's a story of a university president, current university president, who used his EdUp Experience recording as a part of his CV to get his presidency, and verified. We had that verified as well. So, if you think about that, it's crazy.
Yeah, and you know what? I love this. There's a guy now doing a LinkedIn series, and he's basically posting about the book, which has been out, almost 2 years now? It's been almost 2 years, the book. Commencement, the Beginning of a New Era. Shout out to Kate, who's the co-author of that. She wrote a lot of that. So, it's still coming back around, because there's so much information in that book that's fantastic. We had the idea to ask everyone the same question: what issues of future higher education? We took them all the answers, right? First 125 presidents, and boom, and now we got another 200, that we can do. So we have all that content.
It's hard to stop and write another book too, right?
Yeah.
People don't realize, I tell it on this podcast all the time. We literally do this every single day. When I joke with Elvin to the audience, it's like if a guest cancels, sometimes I'm excited because I record every day. So my normalcy is to record daily. Your normal environment is to produce daily. So when we don't have to do that, when we take a break over Thanksgiving, I look around, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this time? What do I do with this hour? I have no idea.
Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking that. I was thinking the same thing, because you just get so used to it. Plus, it's so systematic now. So you got systems down because you do it over and over again, and it compounds. And that's the key. Like all the people who are listening and who may be thinking of having a podcast or have a podcast out there, you just gotta keep being persistent. It's just going to keep compounding. It's going to get better, and good things. When you put it out there in the world, it will come back twofold, threefold. Good things will come back. And so that has happened to both of us. We've met some incredible people during our experiences with the podcast, and we've been places that we no way we would have thought we would have went. And we've been able to experience some really cool times together. Really just, strategizing about what we want to do and what the future looks like for the EdUp Experience. And I keep going back, just getting started. We're getting the EdUp Experience. The podcast is in higher ed right now, but it's a lot more than that. Lifelong learning mindset. It's all about education. So, and it's exciting now with AI, and, that has helped so much to kind of reduce all the workload that we had with the podcast. So it's been very helpful. And then all the partners, all the amazing partners that we've had who have supported us. It's just been phenomenal, and they love it. They absolutely love it. We've had very good response from everyone, and so it's been an amazing ride, and it will continue to be an amazing ride.
Well, and I do want to give some shout outs to see if I can remember our original co-hosting. Dr. Michelle Cantu Wilson, who I think was one of the very first fill-in hosts that we had, maybe the first person that ever filled in for me. Bill Pepicello then became a co-host, and then he went on to start his own podcast. Eric James Stevens was another one. Lisa Honecker used to co-host with us. I can't even think of everybody, but there's been so many amazing co-hosts, right? Because podcasting is hard. If you do this for 40 minutes and you have to be on your A game the entire time. Yeah. Having a co-host allows you to have a brain fart for a moment and not have, and not have to be thinking of the next thing. And when I'm doing it, and this is what I think makes us unique on the front end is my sound effects are live. I don't put those into post. It's not like we put them in later. I press those buttons live, which is sometimes why they mess up and don't work. But I'm thinking about what question I'm going to ask that might get me the response that I want, so I could hit this one button that might be funny to the person's response to add a little bit of comedy to these. It's hard to do, and so like it messes it's tiring. So if you do 2-3 of these in a day, sometimes it's like, psh, I'm out for now, you know.
Yeah, and a shout out to Laurie Shanderson as well, who's
Laurie,
a co-host. Yeah, big time. So thank you to all those co-hosts. But yeah, you're right, Joe. That's not easy to do on the. I've tried it. I can't do it. There's no way. I can't do those sound effects live and do an interview. You know. And again, it goes back to us knowing like our strengths and weaknesses. You know, you gotta get out there. You're on the microphone. You have great conversation, thought leadership, and I'm in the back producing, trying to get people on. And I love that whole component of that. You know, like I said, I love reaching out to people and get them on. And we got a lineup coming up. I mean, wow, man, we got some really. Yeah,
isn't it crazy? Because you think we hit these stretches where the lineup is ridiculous, and we're like, oh, we'll never match that again, and then wham, there it is again.
Yeah. I know. It's like, wow, it just gets better and better. The type of guests that we get coming in, it's like unbelievable. So, and look forward to 2025. Looking forward to how we can take our subscription model to the next level, and you know how much value we can continue to provide to our subscribers and to the folks who are supporting us as well. So in sponsorships and all kinds of events possibly. So, you know, very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, we can plug shamelessly here. We do take partnerships with businesses, and that exchange of dollars that the business pays us gives them access to our audience and also helps sustain our podcast. So if there's anybody out there that's looking to increase your exposure via the podcast medium, EdUp is a great way to do that. And, you know, I want everybody to know that this is an evolution. What started out as a podcast, the EdUp Experience podcast. Now the EdUp Experience podcast is kind of like a subsidiary of the EdUp Experience brand. Because we have the podcast, we have EdUp editorials and a way to publish. We have an EdUp subscription service where we have original content and creative events that we're going to have going forward. We have the EdUp Experience merch store where you can buy EdUp branded clothing to wear out and help us. And all of those things help us sustain this podcast. We do have expenses, ladies and gentlemen. We do have, and we would like to continue to do this for the rest of our lives. But of course, that takes time commitment and a little bit of green, as it were, a little bit of a couple of Benjamins here and there. So we appreciate your support. But the EdUp Experience is an influential, if not the most influential higher ed podcast, certainly one of the most influential brands in higher ed. All started from scratch. All started from an idea, a fleeting idea that manifested itself and created it. And we greatly appreciate our listeners and our guests. Because without them, there is nothing. It's then me and Elvin recording this episode 1,000 times, and nobody wants to listen to that, do they?
No. I mean, maybe, you know, we could do our original content for our subscribers.
Maybe we should.
That could be fun. Yeah, that could be a lot of fun.
Talk about the things that we learned through all these episodes in an unfiltered way. For subscribers only, of course.
Yeah. Well, I do want to say that's the one thing I love also. I mean, it's one thing. There's so many things I love about podcasting, but it's the learning, right? It's like you can see themes happening, you know, remember the whole COVID obviously was a big issue. We literally say, how are you doing? How is your family? How are you safe? Is everything okay? And then that kind of evolved into the post-COVID. And, you know, are you going back to in classroom? How are you preparing for that? I mean, they would talk, remember these presidents would talk details about all these little things they had to, things that you don't even think about as a human being. And, oh my God, a president has to have that, you know, type of mindset, you know, to run this organization, because they are little small, what do you call them? Like little small cities, right? They're almost like countries and cities, whatever. It's a mind-boggling how much they have to deal with. And so hearing from over 300 college university presidents talk about leadership, talk about their challenges, talk about what they see as the future of education, how can you not be inspired, number one? How can you not increase your professional development and use this content to either go create content on your own or to kind of help you get a step up. Go to your supervisor and say, hey, I have an idea. And think about all of the ideas that have been put out, all the practical solutions, all the amazing programs that people have talked about. And I'm sure, unfortunately, we don't know all the stories, but I'm sure maybe hundreds of stories where people could say, I heard it on the EdUp Experience podcast, and I'm bringing it back to my campus, and we're doing it here, right?
Well, Elvin, I don't know if you know this, but I did record you talking about, a lot of people don't know, but when we start the recording, there's kind of like 5 minutes before the recording and then 5 minutes after we talk to the guest, whatever. And it was not long ago, you were talking to somebody, one of the guests before I was able to come, and I recorded you, and I want to play that recording for you. Let's see if this works. Hold on.
Whether you're being going today.
And you were talking about the EdUp Experience podcast, and I was like, that's a great recording, my friend. Well done.
Pretty much sums it up. Learn to love it because it's the best thing for you today.
Ladies and gentlemen,
awesome.
As always, we appreciate you more than you will ever know. We do this for you, and we hope that you listen to this podcast and experience the EdUp Experience brand and all it has to offer to further the individual learning pathways that we all have and the value of post-secondary and higher education. That's why we do it. We do it for you. Last word, Elvin. Last words?
Yeah, definitely. If you're listening to this, please share. It doesn't have to be this episode, but share the podcast with someone that you think could get some value out of this. Subscribe for free in any podcast listening app. But then think about being a paid subscriber because you're gonna get so many benefits. Eventually, it's gonna roll into a membership, and it's gonna be phenomenal for professional development. We're gonna roll out, like we said, we're gonna roll out some really cool activities, in-person experiences, and we're just getting started. So please, it's gonna be 5 years. Those of you who have been with us from day one, thank you. You're amazing. And those of you who are just getting started, we're just getting started. So you're getting started with us as well because we're gonna keep going. And shout out to you, Joe. I mean, really, and shout out to our families and wives. I mean, without them, right? I don't think we'd be doing this, man, if they didn't support us. God love them. So thank you so much to our families and our wives, and it's been amazing. And yes, you're right, Joe. We do this for the listeners, and it's all about you. So thank you.
There you have it, everybody. You've just EdUp.
Hey everybody, it's Elvin, Freytes, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. Hopefully you know by now that we have started our subscription-based model where we have original content, bonus content, get invites to special events. So right now it's $2.99 a month, and as of January 1st, 2025, it's going to go up to $19.99 a month. So go to edupexperience.com, edupexperience.com, look for subscribe now to lock in that lifetime EdUp Experience founders rate. $2.99 a month, edupexperience.com, look for subscribe.
Higher ed leaders, ready to level up your marketing and enrollment strategy? Join us at Insights EDU February 12th through 14th in New Orleans. The ultimate higher education marketing and enrollment management conference is here. Take advantage of early bird prices until December 12th. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.